Hi, everybody. Welcome to Stop Being Sold, a community of informed consumers who are sick and tired of being sold financial products they don't understand or need. So if you're tired of being a transaction, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell so you never miss another video from us. How are you today, Brian?
Doing great, Michelle. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about today's conversation because we're going to talk about the changing landscape of retirement savings and investments, specifically saving for retirement the old school way, the traditional way, versus making bank in crypto.
Oh, hey, this is going to be exciting. Because
It's
we're getting a lot of phone calls in from clients and new clients trying to come on board and saying, "Hey, can I get this? And what do you think of this?" And it's like, okay, today's topic is going to be huge. I'm really excited about this. So
yeah, for sure. And I think it's a conversation that needs to be had because what you'll hear is not what you'll hear, but what's going on is there's the people are beating the drum to the traditional, like old school way, right? Or they're beating the drum to the crypto only way. And, there are a lot of us, myself included, who are like, well, I have the traditional investment vehicles for retirement savings, right? And I also have crypto. Do I keep funding one? Do I put more? And you don't ever want to be super top heavy in one over another, right?
right.
So, for example, for me, I look at my crypto portfolio and, like over the past few years, I'm up 50%, 100%, 2000% even on some assets. And I look at my Roth IRA and I see them compared to crypto, a measly 7% gain, right? 7% gains, average year over year. And what I'm wondering is, should I keep contributing to this Roth IRA? And I do know that other people are wondering the same thing. Specifically,
Yes, they are.
The question they're asking is, why would I contribute to the old school retirement plan when I'm making bank in crypto?
That's
And
a great
even
analogy.
with the tax, right? And even with the tax benefits with retirement accounts, is it even worth continuing to fund traditional investment retirement accounts or traditional investment accounts or retirement accounts?
That's a valid question, Michelle. I know a lot of younger people are asking themselves this exact same question.
Yeah. And I also think there's no guidance on it. I'm wondering, I don't want to make this really about me today, but I have questions specifically about my situation, knowing that you're not going to give me financial advice. You can't give me financial advice. But I think that, having this conversation today is really important because there's the diehard crypto camp and there's the stay in the traditional camp. And there has to be, world is moving so fast and there's so many more investment options available. I don't believe it has to be one or the other.
Right. And, you're absolutely right. In my 24 years, Michelle, as a financial advisor, I've seen many fads come and go. Okay. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, this kind of reminds me when I got started back in the industry, back in the 90s. Oh. That was the internet heyday. Right. Stocks were up hundreds of percent or even thousands of percent. I remember I was a day trader before I became an investment advisor. Mm-hmm. And I built my practice, got started by learning how to trade options. Right. So that was me. And it really reminds me, today's society with the Bitcoin, the cryptocurrencies, NFTs, all that kind of stuff today reminds me of the back with the internet heyday. But one of my goals, recently we talked about, I went to the National Bitcoin Conference in Miami last month, right? Mm-hmm. My goal, one of the big goals I had when I went there was to get clarity on this subject. Right. And I definitely did. This is not a fad, in my opinion. And I believe it is truly here to stay for the long haul. It's exciting. And it's funny, Michelle, while I was there was a couple banks that were there. And that was funny to see them. And we're talking Fortune 500 banks that were there. Very big names. If I mentioned them, everyone would know them. But there weren't a lot of traditional financial advisors there or wealth planners. So.
Well, first of all, kudos to you for being curious and going down there and checking it out, because, this is a conversation I think more and more people, as cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies continue to become more and more part of our lives, give it another 2-3 years, and a lot of these advisors will have people knocking on their door saying, hey, what do you think? What's going on? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a change in landscape to the point where while I was traveling the last couple of days, I seen an article come out in front of me, and I haven't been able to do the research on it yet, but it was a major cryptocurrency exchange. I think it was Bitfinance or one of them, looking to do a reverse merger into a Wall Street firm. Oh, actually, it was into Forbes, the big brand name Forbes, doing a SPAC to come into that to get access to the U.S. financial markets.
Interesting.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. So once we do the research on that, we'll bring you more up to date on that. So that was really exciting to hear that. So.
All right. So let's dive in. My first question is, are traditional savings plans that we know now, 401ks, IRAs, et cetera, going to be obsolete in the next few years or in the next 10 years?
Simple answer, absolutely not. And here's why. Crypto may be a big hit for the younger generation today, Michelle, or right now, but there's millions of consumers who would never invest into crypto, okay? And one thing I always ask is, look, if you're looking at this right now, what is your plan B for retirement if the traditional savings plans are obsolete? And think about this. If a company you work for today eliminated their biggest benefit to workers, which is their 401k plan or their workplace retirement plan, how many employees would stay there today knowing that this is your biggest asset that you may have in your lifetime for your retirement? And, take one step further. Let's not forget the tax deductible advantages that are in place in the old school retirement plans that aren't in the new plans today on the crypto side. So as it evolves, do I see that side coming on board with tax advantage plans? Very, very, very good possibility, but we're just waiting on regulation on that. But, think about your workplace, Michelle. Your 401k, your money goes in pre-tax. You get the employer match if they offer it. And even some plans allow you to contribute after-tax money into a Roth. So I honestly, in my opinion, I believe you need both. And whatever ones come down the road in the future also, because we're going to have the same conversation 5 years from now, 10 years from now, with whatever next is coming down the pipeline. And it's just the evolving financial world that we're in, and everything's in a faster pace because we have access to everything instantaneous today. To finish on that, there's not one investment that everyone, 100% of the people, will ever love. Okay. Some people will always find fault with whatever may be offered. You can't please everyone.
This is true, 100%. So I hear what you're saying, but let's bring it back to from going with the but. So I mentioned I had a Roth IRA, making average 7% returns. Inflation is 7%. Who knows?
7.5 as of the reading this past week.
Yesterday, right?
Yeah.
I'm not even beating alpha. I'm actually now losing money. I mean, I'm going into the negative. I don't know if I'm losing it, but it's like I'm not doing it. Nothing's happening. So why would I continue to fund my Roth? Here, let me ask this. This year, this tax year, which is 2022, I have an opportunity to put $6,000 into my Roth IRA, correct?
Right. Yep.
Why would I take $6,000 and contribute to the Roth when I could take $6,000 and personally invest it into crypto, like long-term crypto holdings like Bitcoin or something like that over the next 10, 20 years will probably produce a better return?
Okay, great question and great point too. Let me ask you something. First of all, can we use you as an example here?
Yeah, no, yes, let's do that.
Let's use you as an example. In the investment that you're referencing, your Roth IRA today that earns 7%, which by the way, that if it continued to earn 7%, it's going to double like every 11 years.
Right.
Okay. 10 and a half, 11 years on that point. You're using the rule 72. What was your initial goal or expectations with that Roth IRA when you started it? Was it to beat inflation? Was it to make more than a 7% rate of return?
Yeah, well, it was to invest for the future, to see growth. But now I'm not seeing that growth. And that's the concern. And I understand that inflation, like it was not 7.5% when I started it, but I want to always be smart with my money and make sure I'm not continuing to pump money into something that's not working as well as it could.
Okay. And let me follow up on what you just said. You're not seeing any growth. Okay. Let's start with that first. If you were not invested in crypto and crypto was not here today, would 7% be an average growth for you?
Yeah, it would probably be a good thing.
Yeah, it'd be a good one, right? So you don't have something to compare. Well, now you have something to compare it to.
Now
if you didn't, then it'd be a whole different ball game. And you just brought up another point. When you open that Roth, inflation was probably around 2%.
Exactly.
So if it's not meeting your expectations now, the question is now what to do, right? You've asked that. So do you keep it? Do you continue to fund it? Or do you sell it to move into something else?
Right.
And they're all very valid questions. Here's my issue being an advisor for 24 years. Again, not giving investment advice, but given my personal opinion, I have an issue with selling something and getting rid of it. So let's go back to your personal situation. Do you have any penalties if you sell your account early today? And if so, how much is the penalty?
I don't know what it is, but I'm not 59 and a half.
Okay. And what is your Roth invested in?
Meaning, it's an annuity.
Okay. It's an annuity. Okay. So perfect example. If you have an annuity, whether it be fixed, indexed, or even variable, there may be early surrender charges. Okay. And if you cancel out or liquidate that account, that's automatically going to be withheld from you. Okay. Also, if you do liquidate your Roth, don't forget about the early withdrawal penalties if you're under age 59 and a half, which you are in this situation. 10%. So that's a 10% penalty. So personally, I'm not a fan of selling an asset that is working, but just not to your expectations.
And not compared to what? Yeah, I get it.
Yes. And paying a penalty to get out of something, buy something new, and hope it goes higher, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Okay.
Okay, so maybe the scenario would be to, Michelle, leave what's there until the penalties are no longer there. And in the meantime, you talked about funding your Roth for this year. Right. Why not open and fund another Roth with your remaining contributions for the year and buy crypto with the new Roth? Okay.
Got it. So real quick, let me ask you this. So I can if I have traditional Roth IRA number one, let's call it Roth IRA or whatever here. As long as I don't fund it or I don't surpass that 6,000, I can open another Roth IRA.
You sure can.
Okay.
And you can open another one next year if you wanted to. You can have as many Roth as you want, as long as you don't bypass the contribution limit.
Contribution limit of 6,000
total of all your Roths.
Okay, got it.
Okay. And the thing is that Roth has a boatload of tax benefits.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when it comes to taking out when you hit the sweet spot. And that sweet spot being holding the account for more than 5 years and being over the age of 59 and a half. Imagine with your crypto side of it, 10 years in the future, 15, 20 years in the future, once you pass 59 and a half, imagine that Roth being 100% tax-free to you. Both of your Roths or all your Roths. So
By the way, real quick, we're going to put a link in the video below, but we did a great video, and it's not great. I think it's pretty good. But it's a Roth IRA explained, and we go it's a deep dive into the pros, the cons, and pretty much we cover everything about Roth IRAs. It's worth watching if you have one or if you're thinking about opening one. So, all right. Well, so let's talk about a Roth that's funded with crypto, right? Like a crypto Roth IRA. So a lot of people are, I know a few people, I know a lot of people, I know a few people who are trading in crypto tax deferred, self-directed, well, not tax deferred, in self-directed 401ks and IRAs, and they're trading crypto within that.
Okay.
So is this a better option let's continue with me, because it's my example. So what I've said is I'm making 7% and I'm not really happy with it. What you've just told me is that this, to sell it and pay all these penalties is probably like, why would I do that? Right. So I can leave this one alone and I could set up like a self-directed IRA, let's say another Roth.
Right.
So is this a better option to do this?
Well, again, it just depends. In your personal situation, it sounds like you're leaning towards that, right, and it could be a great option. And let me explain why. Crypto wasn't around when IRAs were created.
Right.
Okay. So this is uncharted territory that we're stepping into. Crypto cannot be placed into an IRA. So if you've got crypto over here, Michelle, you can't roll it into your Roth IRA that you set up. If you set up a new Roth IRA today, you can't roll crypto into it. But it can be purchased inside your Roth IRA. So once the account's funded, then you can purchase it through there. In the beginning, it was thought that the quickest way to get crypto into tax-deferred accounts, Michelle, was to use self-directed 401ks and IRAs. Right. But times are changing. And now we're seeing more traditional and Roth IRAs being started with the intent of trading crypto today.
Got it. Okay. So I mean, that's most of the people that I know, they do have these self-directed 401ks and IRAs, and they're trading crypto within it. But what you're saying is that now some of the traditional IRAs we're seeing they're actually adding crypto to what would you call it, the assets that
the asset allocation. Yeah.
The asset allocation that you can choose from. Interesting. Okay. All right. So good to know. So understanding that the Roth has a boatload of, as you said, about tax benefits, especially when it comes to, hitting that sweet spot, which not there yet, but, so I could open a crypto IRA. Like, I've been digging into these, and specifically the ones that are self-directed. Many of them, I haven't done my full research yet. So I just want to be very clear to anybody watching, but it seems to me they have massive setup. I mean, quite hefty setup fees. And then there's the setting up a trust or an LLC and purchasing the crypto through the LLC. It just sounds like a lot of hoops to jump through. Is it worth it? Or is it something where I should wait until or find a traditional Roth that does allow for trading crypto, or like you can it's on the asset allocation list?
Yeah, again, it depends in this situation. Mm-hmm. First off, the massive fees, and you're right, they were massive fees. And the fact that you had to set up an LLC in the beginning to be able to trade crypto, then were the initial phases of this. Okay, so this was their workaround, because if back a year ago,
a year ago,
that seems like a long time ago. Now we're starting to get rulings in from IRS as far as what is crypto, and they're considering it a property, and there's different tax consequences for property and this and that. And so it's all different. But the initial fees, though, you had to set up LLCs to trade. It was, oh my gosh, there was so much involved. But them still exist. So if you go out there and type in, set up a crypto Roth on Google today, you're going to see form your LLC and do this, do that. And look, that was a year ago. That's old school stuff. It's still being done today, but
Right.
there's now companies offering to set up Roth, traditional, and SEP IRA accounts without the monthly fees. Some only charge like a 1% transaction cost, which you pay that normally at just trading your crypto in a regular crypto account. So it's getting better. Just like over time, 401k fees were driven down. Now you're starting to see fees in this area been driven down because consumers are demanding it. Okay. And here's the other thing. You talked about self-directed.
Yeah.
Let's explain self-directed in greater detail and not forget what you, Michelle, will have to do with a self-directed account.
Right.
Okay. You've got to do it all.
Right.
Including trading the account, deciding what to buy, when to sell it, keeping track of all the limits on what your contributions are, and this, that, and the other. So there's a lot of work. And the self-directed task are now put on you that normally an advisor would do.
Got it.
So now you become, Michelle, the self-directed trader, advisor, and all of that. But
That's not right for everybody.
It's not right for everybody, but I like it. And even as an advisor, I like it because that's how I learned.
Right.
That's, I taught myself options. And back in the day before I started to practice. And so, look, I love learning new things, and that's just how you get better at what you do. So,
yeah. All right. So bringing it, thanks for, I mean, I think it's important for people to understand what goes into self-directed.
yes.
And knowing what knowing the rules ahead of time before you walk into it and then screw up your retirement. Really, that can happen. So let's go back to my case. Like, let's bring it back to me, please.
Back to you.
Right. So with this Roth IRA, the traditional Roth sitting over there, if I set up a new Roth IRA with the crypto, right, a crypto Roth IRA type thing, can I roll over that traditional into this new one? Or is it bad? I mean, can you do that? Can you roll over something that's traditional into a crypto one?
Well, remember, it's not considered just a crypto Roth.
Right.
It's still in IRS guidelines. It's a Roth IRA. Okay.
Got it. The
So
one you're allowed to trade crypto within.
yes.
All right.
Okay. So you're only calling it a crypto Roth IRA because that's what the assets will be held in that Roth IRA. Sure. But yes, you could roll over the Roth. But let's go back to what we talked about earlier. We talked about the early surrender charges. And like in your case, you said you were in an annuity. So you most likely have early surrender charges. You may only want to roll over the free withdrawal portion each year to bypass the actual early surrender charges of that annuity.
Okay. Would I still have to pay tax on that?
No, not on a direct rollover.
So it's a direct rollover.
Remember, if you do an indirect rollover, the old company is mandated to withhold 20% for taxes, right?
Direct.
But if you're doing Roth to Roth from custodian to custodian, and we did a great video on this talking about in a blog post, and we'll put them links down below, talking about the differences between a direct rollover and an indirect rollover. Okay. And so honestly, it would be best, Michelle, to do a direct rollover of that into the new one.
All right. So if I did that, now I've got one, like, let's say I rolled the Roth into a new Roth where I can trade crypto inside. Right. I'm now going to be only invested in crypto. Right. Because I personally invested in it as well is that I don't want to, it's not a problem, but again, I personally, I like risk, but I'm not stupid enough to go put all my eggs in one basket.
That's the scenario. Yeah, exactly. It's not always the best option to have 100% of your retirement in one asset class.
Right.
And think about this. What hasn't been seen here in the United States yet in the crypto market is a lot of regulation.
Right.
Okay. That is coming once they understand it. I
Well,
guess
yeah,
that's the easiest way to explain it.
it's probably the
And,
nicest way to explain
and
it.
it might be a while, but that's okay.
Yeah,
You know what, where you're at right now. Yeah, I would never put 100%, even my personal assets. And
right.
that
In
is
what?
an investment advice that I give to my consumers. Never
Yeah,
put 100% of their assets into one class, whether it be real estate, whether it be ETFs, mutual
right.
funds, stocks, equities, bonds, crypto. Never put 100% because you don't have control. Are you diversified too much at times? I do believe that. I really do, because diversification actually lowers
Yeah,
the
dilute. Yeah,
your opportunity in the
yeah,
future. So
absolutely.
again, it goes down to your personal risk tolerance, and like you said, you're extra risky, super risky, right?
Yeah.
That's
I
okay.
mean, I
There's
can do it,
nothing
but
wrong
I
with that,
also have, I'm like,
as long
well,
as you understand the amount of risk that you're willing to take. So
exactly. So the one thing that I've heard you say throughout this whole thing, your favorite, I'm going to get you a t-shirt that says it depends.
it depends.
It just depends. But it really is what I've gathered from this is, and first of all, thank you for explaining this, is that this isn't, we've used me as an example, but it really depends on your situation, what you said earlier, just now, risk tolerance, your level of understanding about a specific asset class. And we used crypto here because we're talking about traditional versus crypto, but people may be asking themselves this about the market versus real estate, right? Do I go all in on this? And
I'm
so,
glad you just said that,
yeah,
because you will not believe this, but this morning I had a call come in from a client that's been a
mm,
long-term client, multiple years. And his thing was, you know, I've only averaged, I got 11.5% return last
yep,
year. But I've been flipping houses for the last 10 years, and the housing market is through the roof right now. And
right,
I'm looking to cash out my IRA at, I believe he's only just roughly, let's say 40-ish. And he's looking to cash that out to flip it into homes,
yeah,
because that's what the hot trend is. So you're exactly right. It just depends on the person. So my goal as an advisor is to look, I'm going to give you the facts of what it's going to cost you,
sure,
or as if you had to cancel that today. And it was almost a rough calculation, 16% is what he would lose initially off
right.
of that
Right,
account,
Medicaid,
not
yeah.
including what his tax base would be
And
for
I think
pulling
that's a
out
really
all
important
that
thing.
money.
What's it going to, what is the true cost of exiting something you have now?
Yeah.
You
So
spend all this time, time and year, I mean, time plus years, just time, excuse me, years and money
years of money.
adding to this. Like, why? I don't want to give 20% to the government in taxes, and I don't want to pay penalties to an annuity, to an insurance company.
Right.
Um, so taking that into consideration as well before making any kind of move is important.
And
And
that's where,
the tax consequences, right? I like the Roth. You're right. I would like to turn 59 and a half and take out money tax-free
for the rest of your life. Yeah,
for
that's
the rest of my
awesome.
life.
And
Yeah.
here's, I guess what, to follow up on all this is a great conversation, because these are the conversations, Michelle, that I'm having every day with clients.
Yes.
And
Right.
it's common. They're asking it because new asset class. Look, the housing market is booming, crypto's booming, and people trend to follow. They get that fear of missing out. The FOMO is in there, and they feel that they're missing out on it, and they really want to say, Brian, what do I do? What do I do? So as an advisor, as any advisor, your goal is to give them the best advice that you can and explain the whole picture. We're taking a 30,000 foot view of canceling out your Roth IRA and going into a Roth crypto. Okay.
Right.
And look at every option before you make that drastic decision. And if it makes sense for you, go ahead with it. If it
Sure.
doesn't, and that's why you really want to speak with a fiduciary advisor to understand the whole process. But here's the other scenario. I guess here's the negative with speaking with most advisors today on the crypto side. If the advisor has a negative opinion of cryptocurrency and doesn't want to be involved in that, even as a fiduciary's job by law is to do what's best for the consumer.
Right.
If I don't understand crypto as a fiduciary advisor, am I really doing the best job that I can do for my
Right.
consumers?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, this is why we exist. We want people to understand what they're invested in or what they want to, what they're looking at. And even if you have an advisor, do your own research.
yes, please.
Think for
And you'll
yourself.
learn from it. Learn from it. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I think we've gone on long enough. Thank you so much, Brian, for this. I really appreciate it.
you got a clearer picture, Michelle, on your personal situation now?
Much clearer. Yeah. Because before I'm like, well, I was just looking at the returns, but it's actually more than that.
Yeah, a lot more than just the returns.
More than just the returns. If you like the content of this video, go ahead and hit that like button. We'd appreciate it. It helps us grow the channel. Please leave comments below if you have any. We're always looking at our comments that come in, and we make videos based on them. So you got questions, we will answer them. And thanks again, Brian. Appreciate this.
No, thank you for the questions, because a lot of consumers are asking it, and I'm glad we can answer it today for you.
Awesome. And thanks everybody for watching. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.